Hi everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make a really fun pop-up card using the Well Done bundle. You can actually add this to your Stampin' Up! Kit if you would decide to join my team, the Rainbow Stampers, as a demonstrator. So right now you get to pick $125 worth of anything in the catalog, any catalog that's current, or online offerings for $99. It ships for free. And you also get to pick either a stamp and punch bundle or a stamp and die bundle for free. Any single one that's a bundle in the catalog. So you could do this one. So I originally was talking a couple weeks ago, we talked about doing some shaker cards. And I said if you have these little tiny, you can see how thin this strip is. If you have any strips, you could always keep them for something left over. So I'm going to show you a couple of tips and tricks today to do with this card. So for the base card of this card today, we're going to use Pretty Peacock. This is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And then I have a piece of the really adorably fun, I'll show you, there are so many prints to this, it's just insane. I love this one too, reminds me a lot of Dory, but there's a lot of scenes, so you could do a lot of scene building, you could do some smaller scrapbooks, but this is a great DSP. I do have another little strip for the inside, so we'll see that later, and then I'm going to be using the Well Done stamps. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to grab just a couple scraps because we do need a few different things for this, and I want to punch them ahead of time and give them some time to dry out, and then I will show you what we're going to do for this card. It looks, nope, let me go to this way. Okay, so for most of these we're going to just use scraps, so you can kind of do whatever you like for them. So for the sea nettle or jellyfish, whatever it is you want to call it, new sea nettle is a little different. I'm just going to stamp him in terracotta tile. You could also use Calypso Coral if you want. You could really use any color. You could even use blue. So there's lots of choices with that. For our sea turtle, I'm actually going to stamp him in Granny Apple Green. And I'm stamping all these. I am going to fussy cut them. So if that's something that you don't necessarily love to do. Now, I will say one thing real quick here. This one does not look very clear. And honestly, that's because this Granny Apple Green is a little bit excessively inky. So I'm going to go down one. I'm going to go to Old Olive, and I'm going to try not to ink quite as hard. And we can always add some bright spots, but that's much better. He's much better detailed in this one because there's not as much ink on top. So if you do get a stamp that maybe you've inked, or when you get it from Stampin' Up! Directly, it's too inky, if you actually take a very technological tool, which is a plastic spoon, and you push some of the ink kind of over to the side, and you should be able to see this in a second. What it does is that it kind of it will keep the ink instead of you blotting it off, but it'll kind of push it to one side, and then this spot in the center will be a little bit drier. So it gives you much better inked images when you stamp, especially if you have a little bit more of a detailed image. Now this is not a distinctive stamp, however it does have a lot of detail to it, so you will see. Same thing you could notice with this one. If I did the same thing with the, and I'll just stamp him again just for the sake of it. Hold on, let me find the spot that looks a little bit less inky. It actually will be much more detailed. There you go, you can see that a little bit more. It will lighten up a little bit as it dries, but they'll be much more detailed if they're not really gooped over with ink. So kind of keep that in mind. If you notice that your images are not looking as detailed as you think they should be, that could be part of the reason why. So let me grab, oh my gosh, I almost always have so much scrap white paper. Here's a piece. And sorry about that. Now I can't find it. Okay, so same thing with this. So we could do him. I do have one whale punched out already. I did him with Seaside Spray, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean for this. So we will do, and I will show you why. So we will do one in Pretty Peacock. All right, and I'm just going to stamp him off first. So we'll do Pretty Peacock. All right, so he's a little bit lighter. Now, you could certainly make him darker if you want him to be darker. That's absolutely perfect idea to do. Now, what I'm going to do for this, because I kind of want the back to mirror, and obviously this one is facing the correct direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch out just a piece of whale, just scrap whisper white, and I'm going to flip him over. So this part is a tiny bit complicated, but honestly, once you do it once, it does work out pretty well. So I have my little punch here, and then I'm going to ink up my stamp. I'm going to stamp it onto my silicone mat. You do kind of have to be careful because things will wiggle a little bit on here just because this mat is a little wiggly. And then I'm going to take my image and flip it over, and you can see once you kind of get close that you're lining it up pretty well. It's just a teeny bit off, but you could also do this if you have a photopolymer stamp that's larger than the stamp you're using. So you can see this one's just a little bit off, but what we can do is, sometimes you can get it to line up better than others, is we'll just take our blender pen and we'll kind of just take a little bit of the color and just blend it out so it kind of fills in the rest of the color back here. Because this one honestly is really just the back side of the mirror image of the stamp. So really, if he's a little bit lighter or a little bit off, it's okay. But what we're going to do when we put this together is we're going to have both of these together. That way both sides will have a whale on them. Okay, so there's that part. Right. And then what you do with this is you just take your chamois and wipe it off, and you can do that over again. It is a little bit harder to see because this isn't clear, but it's a good solution if you don't have a larger photopolymer stamp. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab, oops, I stuck my thumb right in the ink there. I'm going to grab my other whale and try and make sure I line him up a little bit better since he'll be the front. What I do is I kind of slowly pinch it a little bit until I get it lined up right where I want. And there is my front whale. Ooh, whoopsie. Another thing I did was, and I'm just picking a color with this, is I actually went ahead and just kind of made his eye a little darker. So you could kind of see his eye is a little darker there. I'll do that same thing with this guy here. Oh goodness, where is his eye? There it is. That way at least you can see something of an eye, but this will be backwards. Now you certainly can just punch out another one and put it on the back side and let it be white, but I thought it was pretty simple to do that. So we will save that. So let me move these little dudes out of the way so I don't have too much of a catastrophe. Stack them for now. Okay, so one thing we're going to do is I am going to fussy cut these out, and I know some people do not enjoy fussy cutting, so if you have a Carl, I don't know if the Carl cutter is the cutter, or like a Cameo silhouette. I think you can program those to cut these out, but they do cut out. They're not really, I have some marker on my hand. They're not really too intensive to cut out, so we'll go with him. And I kind of just rotate the paper around and keep my scissors in the same place, which makes it, at least anyway for me, makes it a little bit easier to cut. But this card is really, really cute, and you'll see why in just a minute. I forgot to stamp one other thing. So for this one, I was really very kind of free and loose with my cutting. I kind of just went, I'll show you what I mean. Went all the way around. Brought it somewhat close, and I am going to go ahead and bring in a little bit of additional color with this so these aren't such a harsh white. And then I kind of went in here and just picked a little spot. You could also do it like this by kind of snipping in a little bit, and then you could just round off the little teeny edges, but you can do as much or as little as you want. And if this guy is too much for you to cut out, you can always do something different. You can put another whale on the front instead. Okay, so same thing. So now with this, we have him and, where's my turtle? Here he is. Him and my turtle, and they're a little bit kind of flat in their color. So what I'm going to do is take my Granny Apple Green, and I'm going to just kind of fill in a little bit of the color just because it'll give him a little bit more dimension. with having kind of more than one color. You could also go with soft sea foam if you wanted to. If you want him to be a little bit lighter even than that, you can take your blender pen and pull a little bit of ink off of your marker and kind of move this around a little bit. Give him a little bit lighter of a head. You could use multiple colors of green. But so there is our sea turtle. And then I'm going to do a little bit of Calypso Coral. So this was terracotta tile. So you could do Calypso Coral. If you wanted to have a little bit more of the blue of the ocean or whatever behind, you can even do a little bit of Seaside Spray. So he has kind of some blue water tones behind him. And you could make these so they were a little bit different color as well. I'm kind of just going down to the tips just slightly. So it'll kind of blend in a little bit better with the background. And go a little bit more with this. One other thing you could do instead, which I actually did this on my first card, which I made this card for my brother for his birthday. So I didn't want to make this video, until after he received it. So hopefully he's gotten it by now. And you could also take your Wink of Stella, because that also is a blender pen, and you can kind of blend your inks around with that a little bit, but I think it also gives that nice undersea little bit of sparkle. Only thing you want to make sure is when you go from one color to another that you do kind of wipe your brush off, because it does pick up the colors. So I'll just do the same thing with the turtle. Cute. And I'm going to do the same. Did I already do this turtle? Yeah, that one was the one I did prior. Nope, I did this one. So we'll go with this guy here. Add a little shimmer to him. Kind of blends out the colors a little bit too. Do the same with this guy. Kind of spreads the colors to the edge a little bit as well. All right, so there you go. So that's pretty much all you really need to do for that. Where is my cap for this? Here we go. So I'm going to show you one other thing that I did that I thought was pretty fun. So I'm just going to use the flip side of this here. And I have my smallest, is this the one that fits? Let me just make sure it actually does fit. My smallest, yeah, second smallest stitched square. Okay, so I'm going to put him, and to kind of keep away, because we have Peacock. Peacock is in here. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something a little bit brighter. I'm going to do just Jade, just to bring in a little bit different of a color. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and this is going to go on the front in Just Jade, which makes me always think of Just Jack, if you guys watched, well, Will and Grace. It was always pretty funny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my square on, and I'm going to line up so I'm at my top of my square is very close to the words, okay? And I'm going to put a piece of tape just to kind of hold this in place. So I'm going to run this through the Big Shot or any die cutting machine. Then, so now I'm going to show you the second part. What I'm going to do is, because if we use the smaller square, it's just a little bit too small. So I'm going to peel off my tape. Then I'm going to come back with my square again, and this time I'm going to bring it up. So I have it so it's fitting in the grooves there, and it's coming so the line is right at the bottom of the letters again. And I'm going to tape this down, run this back through. Okay, and I have to cut one more thing. I'm just going to cut it really quick while we have this out. So then you have a second sized, so you just basically cut off this little piece here, but you have another size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of coral. Hopefully I have a piece here, a little scrap. Use that. And I'm going to die cut this. This is going to be in the full size. Sorry, I got a little extra there with my cutting. So then this will layer just like that, right on top. Now, just to make this a little bit, kind of bring something out, where's my granny apple? I'm going to take my granny apple and I'm just going to go around this, just so it kind of sticks out just slightly. Okay. And then I'm going to put this on, just a little bit of glue, kind of just going for centering it. Okay, so there's that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my trimmer and I'm going to cut this down. So again, this card is going to fold this way. Okay, so we're going to need a piece that is 4 by 5 1/4, just for a little bit of a border. So we'll trim this to 5 1/4 first by 4. And this card is it is pretty simplistic in its design in the front, but it does have something special on the inside. Put that for now. Okay, so this is going to go onto the front panel. Let me just hit this with my bone folder. Put some, oh, you could even use that side of it. It would be super cute. Yes, you could use either. Nice part about this paper is, it is, I will say, sometimes it's a little bit hard to choose which side you want to use, but luckily there's enough paper that you don't have to pick too much. Okay, so that's going to be the front of our card, and what we'll do is we'll put our sea turtle and our little jellyfish over there, and we'll kind of put this guy on the front. I'm going to put him on, since this is a darker colored cardstock, I'm just going to do this with black dimensionals, which I love. And also, kind of, since we have 2 layers to this, it's not going to show. You could do the same thing with this because these are colored, so you really won't see them quite as much. If they were white, sometimes they can kind of show through, and it almost makes it look a little bit dingy. Put that one, and this. Okay, so let's pop these off. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of eyeball, put him down here. You know, I like things kind of cockeyed. We'll have our turtle swimming up there and this guy down here. Okay, so just as it is, very, very cute card, right? Really adorable. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take it up one more step for the inside. Let me make sure this is already trimmed. It should be. Yep, so it's 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my coral piece out of here and both of these seagrass, I don't even know what you would call them, seaweed. I know a lot of people like to eat seaweed. Let's see. Put him on a little bit of a smaller one. This goes here. It's okay. And tiny for this. Okay, so what we're going to do, and again, you could do this in lots of different colors. I'm going to start off with Calypso Coral, and I'll show you what I mean. Let me put my piece of cardstock under here. Okay, just for scrap, because I am going to stamp off. So I'm going to stamp without re-inking. So we'll just kind of go up as far as we can. Just on the side. Doesn't have to be in any specific pattern or order. You do whatever makes you happy. All right, and I'm going to do just a teeny bit across the bottom. All right, so there's that. So again, that was Calypso Coral. Then I'm going to move on to Garden Green and Pear Pizzazz. Okay, so same thing again. I'm going to do the larger one first. We'll go bring him over and kind of without re-inking. There's that, maybe one more in the center. This is going to be a little bit covered up, so you don't want to put too much effort into making it look perfect, because we are going to cover it up, and you'll see why in a moment. But I'm just kind of bringing, just so something peeks out. That looks good. All right, I'm not going to do too much more. And then I'm going to add one more little sentiment here on the inside, which is Hope all your birthday fishes come true. I think this, nope, that's too small. It's funny because sometimes I'll say to myself, okay, I need to order blocks because I have like whatever block it is, I'm missing that specific one. And I always seem to order the opposite block of what the block it is that I'm looking for. I'm not quite sure how that happens, but I need to actually make myself a note. Okay, so I have hope all your birthday fishes come true. So just to, again, make it kind of a bright, we'll just bring in the jade because that's just something a little bit different. So just jade. And you can kind of put this as high or as low as you want. Now, here is one thing that you need to keep in mind. At this point, if you are very concerned about how your handwriting looks or whatever it is that you add, you want to write now. So you could either leave this part out until you know who you're going to give this card to, or make the card ahead of time and kind of give yourself a little bit more room. And here's going to be the reason why. So I'm going to put this little piece down here at the bottom. So that's why I said you don't want to spend too much time covering up. You can always trim this down a little bit if you'd like. But if you remember, we have this little piece of window sheet, right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to put this whale, and then we're going to put another whale on the back. And we're going to make this so it's going to be a little pop-up. So you can kind of take this however you want. I'll say about a 1/2 inch or so and kind of just crease it. You don't really need to score it, but you're going to crease it. You don't want to crease it too hard because you don't want it to stay flat down. So you kind of just want to give it a little elbow bend there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to use some, you could use either one, but I'm going to use a little bit of the Stampin' Seal Plus, and I'm going to run a little bit on here for my whale. Let's say, kind of make him as if he's swimming up a little bit. Then I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue on the back, and I'm going to put my other whale here, just like so. And just kind of hold them for a second till they sandwich together. All right, so I'm going to bring my silicone mat in one more time, only because I want to try to avoid getting stuff everywhere if possible. So the little part here where I put the bend, I'm going to just put some of the Stampin' Seal Plus on there. Okay, and then I'm going to put him pretty close to the bottom. So we have kind of the bend right here. And you have to be very careful with the Stampin' Seal because once you get it where it wants to go, it's going to stay there. And I'm just going to press. So he's kind of right at the edge. I'm just going to give that a nice press. So at this point, if you wanted to trim this down so it was mirroring this, so it was a little bit thinner, which I think that's about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to trim this down just a teeny bit just to show you what I mean. I feel like that's 1 inch. So I'm going to go with 3/4. So maybe I like to put this in the center. I think it cuts a little better. I think I did, this one was probably about 3/4 of an inch. Hopefully I didn't cut it too short. Yeah, I did, but that's okay. So we can always put this up a teeny bit, and I'm going to cut this down. So this should be 5 1/4. That way it goes the whole way. And there you go. So I'm going to just put this up just a teeny bit, only because I did trim it down just a little bit too short. So this part is going to be kind of depending on how it is you have yours. You could even put the fish on the other side if you wanted to have something a little bit more contrasting, but I'm going to stick with what I did. So I'm just going to put some Stampin' Seal, not a lot. Down here. Make sure it's facing the correct direction. And I'm going to kind of keep mine up just a little bit because I do want to make sure I cover the top here. We'll kind of go just like that. Make sure it looks remotely straight, and then press. And then this guy, you can kind of give a little press to, but you don't want to push too hard because you want him to, basically what we're going for is when the person opens this card, which this is the one other thing, you just want to make sure that your, which I didn't measure ahead of time, so that would have been smart. Make sure that your window sheet doesn't stick out so this ends up here because you kind of want it to be like a surprise. So you want a little bit shorter of a piece, which luckily this ended up being. But when we put this down, you'll pop it and then this guy's going to pop out. So I'm going to just put down some liquid glue. And then what I did with my brother's card, so this is why I say you can kind of either write your message now, but what I ended up doing, only because my brother turned 40, and my mother passed away. So I try to, with both of my brothers, especially if they have things that are very memorable times in their life, I try to make sure that I really make something noteworthy of growing up together or something fun that we used to do. So I ended up making a whole other white panel and wrote a huge long note over here. So you can kind of change it if you wanted to put something more. But all you're going to do then, before you mail it, obviously you're going to sign your card. So you're going to close it and close this. And then when you put your card in the envelope, so, you know, you'll write the address on it and everything, and then they're going to get your card and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so cute, look at that. Oh, and then a whale pops out. So how adorable is that? I thought this was such a fun idea. The other thing you could do if you wanted to, you want to be careful, and only because I'm telling you this so you don't make the same mistake. This is adhesive, because adhesive really sticks to window sheet. So try your best when you glue it to kind of keep your hands clean. So you probably could wipe this off with a little bit of something, but I just want to tell you so you can be aware not to touch this too much. And most likely whoever gets this isn't going to really care that this little part is dirty. But so then you're just going to bend it down just enough, and that way when they open it, it pops out at them. So hope you guys enjoyed this card today. I thought it was absolutely adorably cute, and I was really proud of myself that I came up with a completely unique, as far as I know, I don't think I subliminally saw this anywhere, but a really fun pop-up little card using just a little piece of window sheet. So that's why we saved it, because we can always do something extra with it. You could also make a completely different card, leaving the whale out, and just make the built scene on the bottom. I think is really pretty. So I might have to do another card with just that on the inside and no pop-up to see how it looks. But hope you guys enjoyed this card today. If you would like to get any of these supplies, you can head to my online store, which is open 24/7, no mask required, rachthestamper.stampinup.net. Remember, right now, if you join as part of my team, this is through the end of June 2020. So through June 30th of 2020, you're able to pick a stamp set and punch or a stamp set and die for free in addition to the joiner kit. So you get $125 worth of stuff for $99. It ships free, which is amazing. This is valid through me. I am only allowed to pick up demonstrators and customers through the United States. So if you're watching somewhere else, you could certainly go to StampinUp.com and find yourself a more local demonstrator. But I do have demonstrators all across the United States, and we try to have lots of fun together. So hopefully I would love to have you join my team as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this super fun pop-up whale birthday card. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day.